what I wanted to talk about, guys, and we're going to get into this, is going to be about 30-minute video, possibly. And then I'm going to mow the lawn. So I'm out here. I just made a couple shorts warming up about talking about remembering my soul, remembering my past lives, and remembering things that happened in different lives. One of the things that I get interested in when it comes to past lives is specific time periods that have historical events that occurred that we all remember. I believe in something called mass reincarnation. I have a lot of evidence that I have discovered, books I've read, documentaries that I've watched that show quite a bit of evidence. And what I believe is these videos and these books have this effect called DNA activation. And so if you've ever played the video game Assassin's Creed, when you go through missions, you learn lessons and you remember, you basically connect the DNA strands of the memories of your ancestors. And so this is what I believe is accurate to us right now as human beings. I believe that we have memories from our past lives that are hidden beneath the surface, and meaning that it's not necessary for us to remember our past lives. We've had hundreds and maybe even thousands of past lives, and us living in this life, it basically, all we really need to know is this life. So we don't really need to remember all this stuff, but however, there's this group of people that teaches this information. Apparently this information has always been around, and there's just a lot of people who just don't know about it. And so I happen to want to go into the bottom of all of this. I wanted to find the secrets of the universe. I wanted to find deeper into my soul of who I am and that type of stuff. Now, I've also shared different times along my journey believing that I am certain people in my past lives. Now, I do believe, factually speaking, that it's very unlikely that any of us were these famous and historically popular people in our past lives. However, someone had to have been. So it's really interesting how a lot of people believe that they were Abraham Lincoln, or that they either knew Jesus Christ, or that they were a pope or a king or whatever. People believe they were a king or a queen. I think we all do. And maybe we all have had a turn. It's also possible, considering that I believe that I have lived 532 lives in the last 25,000 years. That's my estimate, based on the research I've done, based on the meditations I've done. I've heard the number 532 very specifically when I started to connect with my spirit guides. Now, growing up in a Christian church, I didn't hear the word spirit guides. I heard the word angels quite a bit, and that we all have our own guardian angels. I learned this as a kid, growing up, guardian angels, and I always believed I had angels growing up as a kid. And then I spent a period of time, maybe 4 or 5 years, where I didn't go to church, but I was studying the law of attraction instead. And so I ended up, through the law of attraction, manifesting information about my past lives, because that's what I was attracting into my life at that time. That's what I was researching. That's what I was wanting to know. I was also connecting with my spirit guides, which also have a name. And I believe that one of my spirit guides' names is Jessica, which is very private information for me to share that with you, that I have 532 lives, and one of their names is Jessica. And also that Jessica is my daughter in another life that apparently is not in a body in this life at this time. Maybe she will be eventually. Maybe she will reincarnate and be one of my children. Very possible. I don't know. But what I do know is she's been my spirit guide for quite some time, and we have had conversations in meditation telepathically. And so because of me having this experience, and because I didn't just have this experience, right? I'm not just this crazy person that just had these experiences. I did a lot of research, and I studied certain documentaries, specifically on the platform Gaia, and hearing people's stories there's also stories of people like dying in 9/11 and being reincarnated and telling their mom as a 3-year-old that they were in this office and died and a plane hit the building and stuff like that. Like, people talk about their memories of their deaths. in their past life. A lot of times it's a 3-year-old, it's a 4-year-old. And so I'm hearing stories of that, and it just gives you chills, because you're like, there's no way a 3-year-old would know this. Like there was a story of this kid that was his mom's brother that died in a car accident and reincarnated as her son. And so it's like, that's so unlikely. How would that happen? But it's like the stuff that the little kid talked about, there's no way he would possibly know. No one told him yet. He wasn't even old enough to remember, but he remembered his past life, and he called her by that name. You know, it's like, me hearing that stuff, it gives me more and more confidence. You know, and really it gives me the curiosity to be like, what does that mean for me? If other people can do that, what does that mean for me? And so going into my own meditations, and there was a period of time, probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years, where there's probably a year where I really went pretty deep into past life regression. And I did about 20 past life regressions in about 6 months. And I gained quite a bit of information from that. And remembering different lives. And I now, looking back, having had years since it's happened, I do believe that there's more to it that I'm not fully understanding. I can't possibly expect myself to fully understand the whole process within my first year of experiencing it, but now, having it been 5 or 6 years now, I do believe this is something that I will continue to study throughout my life. Having different past lives and living in connection with spirit. And even, you know, going back to church this last year or two, I've been at church, and then hearing the pastors talk about the Holy Spirit, and hearing them talk about, you know, listening to God and hearing the voice of God. And I believe that's almost the exact same thing as talking to your angels or your spirit guides. It's almost the exact same thing. I do believe the Holy Spirit contains angels inside of it. I do believe that Holy Spirit is this beyond comprehension, non-physical experience that gives off forms of angels, you know, that it's just extremely likely. I believe I've had firsthand experiences. I've had secondhand experiences first, which gave me the curiosity and wanting to learn of, like, if these people are having these experiences where a spirit guide is talking to them, or they're getting insight from the spiritual realm, or they're learning something about their past lives, that made me like I started getting chills. I was like, damn, like, that's a real thing. Like, they literally are telling you evidence of their firsthand experience. And even people around them were like, I didn't believe them at first, whatever, but there's just no way. It has to be spirit, because there's no way. Physically, they would never know that. There's no possible way. And so that's how you know spirit is real. And even as I speak this, I feel the spirit with me. And so anyway, it's a very interesting thought to say that I have 532 lives, but it's, in reality, I have a lot more than 532 lives. Although in a certain sequence of cycles of time, I'm on my 532nd life in this 25,000 year cycle, is what I personally believe. I believe it resets every 25,000 years. Or so. I have quite a bit of reason to believe that. I do believe the David Wilcock's book talks about 2,000 year cycles within 25,000 year cycles within 300,000 year cycles. So it's deep. It's really deep. But if I can have 500 or so lives in a 25,000 year period, that means every 25,000 years I have 500 lives, give or take. Not necessarily, because lifespan might be different based on health and based on a couple different, things, advancements in technology and science and stuff like that. There's a lot of factors here, but to what degree, do I even need to remember of past lives and future lives? Well, I feel a calling to connect all of it to the one, which is the atom. I believe the atom is the core of everything in this entire universe. Everything came from the atom. And like Fortnite, okay, I believe the no one's gonna know the reference unless they play Fortnite, but the pods that drop from the sky and you open it up and you get the stuff, like, it almost seems like the first humans had to have come from another planet, or they came from outside of the planet and were dropped into the planet. Somehow there is another, but you got to think, even those beings, the civilization, what year of the civilization were they on? What tier of civilization are they on to where they can take a spaceship to another planet and start another civilization? Like, what type of civilization do you even have to be to even pull that off, right? So that's something I have a question about. And there's quite a few people. Maybe I start a podcast on this topic and interview some certain experts. I've thought about doing that for quite some time, but just haven't really had the time and place, or the privacy and the safety to even talk about these types of things because of the controversy and, people thinking I'm crazy and stuff like that. So other than that, there's a time and place to talk about this stuff. And I believe there is a future that we are to get to. And it won't be in this lifetime. It won't be in this human body, but there will be another version of me and you that will be experiencing it. Is there any reason for me to remember this life? Necessarily. Well, it seems that every 100 years or so, there are certain beings that we all base what we do around. Like Michael Jordan's inspiration, Michael Jackson's inspiration, any of the presidents, famous figures, Marilyn Monroe, Amelia Earhart, the Wright brothers, the Edisons, the Carnegie, the Ford, the Rockefeller. There's people that have shaped society in such a way that we all remember them, right? And so is it likely that out of the 8 billion of us that, all of us are going to have some monumental effect on society? And it's just very unlikely. It's possible that we will, and some of us will, but compared to what? And the fractals of how that even makes sense, especially on social media, the amount of people that have 100,000 followers or 1 million followers or 10 million followers, even that alone is not necessarily, getting you in the history books. So we're in such a weird situation right now where it's like, who gets in the history books in the year 2050, in the year 2075, in the school books? Will we even have history books? Guys, really think about this. Will we even have history books? We will be completely digital? Will it be completely AI? Like, will we, like that document, the book, Fahrenheit 41, or I believe is what it was, or Fahrenheit 51, something like that. It's where all the books are just burned and we don't have any more books. It's all digital. And when it's all digital, all the information's out there, but somehow it's connected to you because it's on your phone. So it's like, in 50 years, will we even have history books? Right? When I was growing up as a kid in the early 2000s, everyone learned the exact same thing. Okay, there was no misinformation anywhere. There was no social media says this AI fake videos, like none of that. Now that's a normal thing. People make fake AI videos all the time. Sometimes you can't tell the difference. What's real and what's not. So what will be remembered 100 years from now? And that's the question I have. What will be remembered 100 years from today? What will we remember? And I believe it's a question. It's a question. We don't know. How would we possibly know the answer to that? So it makes me wonder. It makes me think. And I believe Spirit has the answer. I believe Spirit can see 50 years from now, 100 years from now. Although, even that is still not guaranteed. It's just a probability layer. According to, I would name some people, Dolores Cannon, also Phil Good, Bruce Goldberg, Dave Wilcock, people, Dilly Carson, even people that have talked about this, that I've studied, and they all are saying virtually the same thing, that in the higher dimension, there's probabilities. It's not guaranteed. The future is never solid. It's always somewhat maneuverable because of the parallel universe theory, that all possibilities exist in a parallel universe. Every single thought, every single word, every single action, every single decision is a parallel universe. And it leads a chain reaction, a domino effect, into other things. The butterfly effect, right? Having the domino effect and the butterfly effect are almost the exact same thing, where everything you do affects time. Okay, and so like you see these movies or TV shows where you're time traveling and you can't go back in time and do something because it might change history. It might change the future if you do one little thing and it affects the ripple of everything else. And so what's scary about that is that's true of everything that you're doing, and you don't think it may not affect the world in such a way that it actually can. It actually can affect the world in a way, anything you do. So, I don't know how deep we're going to go in on this. We are already 15 minutes in. I said 30 minutes. I could talk for 3 hours, or I could keep it at 15 minutes. But I want to make more of these. Possibly I'll edit these. So I do want to keep, I think that's what I want to do. But it's just a question I have. 100 years from now, it's like, as I'm moving out of my parents' house again and moving into my own apartment, I do feel that I'll have more space and privacy to dive deeper into these topics in a controlled and strategic and proper and professional way, which would be the goal. I do believe that's where I will be headed on social media. I also make trading content as well. I'm not sure what my whole strategy will be on social media, but I do see myself using it a little bit. I don't know how much, a lot. If it'll be every day, every week, I'm not sure on that. If I can if I can make high enough quality videos and gain an audience and monetize, where I can do research and make videos about my research and that to make me money, would be something I would consider a dream job. So to teach on those topics. But why are we here, right? Like, why are we here right now? How meaningful is it that we are here? In the grand scheme of things, we're not here for very long, right? It's not, if you have 500 lives in 25,000 years, this is one of your 500 lives. So YOLO, right? People say you only live once, you die, you go to heaven or you go to hell. Well, I believe it's extremely unlikely that that's true. Even though I did believe that as a kid, that's what I was taught as a kid, to have one life, when society has lived for 100,000 years, to say this is your one and only life, and you're going to live for 50 to 100 years, and then you're done, you're going to live eternity in heaven and hell, which could be millions of years. So you're going to go to hell for 1,000,000 years because you had a bad life one time out of 500. Well, probably not. But you could do a life sentence or, death penalty if it's really bad, what you do in one life. But what you do in one life, it creates karma. So now the next life, you might have set up the circumstances bad for you. Now you may have done something bad. You think you got, in this life, you thought you get away with it by dying. And then maybe, and I don't know exactly how this works, but I have a theory on how this works. And based on what I've researched and what stories people have told. I mean, there's been stories of this lady that has reincarnated, and it's like the same husband killed her in 30 lives in a row. And it's like, how is that possible? That's such an extreme story and example of reincarnation, and then she stopped it on the 32nd time or whatever. But it's it's a theme, right? You get to, based on, now I'd like to cite my sources here because I don't want source, trust me, bro. So I'm going to drop that in the comments. But I'm going to cite my sources here and make this professional and really realize that this is a serious matter to me. And it's not just theory. It's actually, there's quite a bit of evidence on this. And there's a lot of firsthand experiences that people have shared testimony to this being a real thing. Especially what I call draft day, okay? Which is the selection process where you are a soul that has died in another life and you've passed on to the spiritual realm, and there's a period of time where you're in heaven, you could say, and maybe it's for a year, maybe it's for 10 years, maybe it's for 100 years, I don't know. But you're there, and eventually you decide to go back and live another life. Based on certain circumstances, you have a choice of family selection, house selection, the city selection, and there's different choices. I don't know who makes the decisions up there, and you got to think that there's some higher evolved spiritual beings in that decision process Just as we have a physical government, we must have a spiritual government somewhere, in some way. And so there is what's called the Men in Black. Okay, so I did have a firsthand experience. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to share that. I did have a firsthand experience with the Men in Black as well. So some of this stuff is you're not supposed to know. Okay, and so I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not, but some of the stuff you're not supposed to know. And anyway, I went pretty deep into it. And so with that being said, the Men in Black, which is like the spiritual police, okay, the thought police, it's a real thing. And so, you know, if you do a good job and you live a good life, and you know, you may have, you know, the points. There may be a point system of what type of life you can choose. Maybe you can choose a hard life on purpose, just so, you know, it'll be more rewarding in the end or something. Or maybe you'll get more points for it. Like, I mean, sure, anyone would choose an easy life if they had a choice. But maybe there's like, you've had a couple easy lives in a row. It's time to have a hard one, right? Maybe it balances out like that. Maybe it's like you've had a hard life. You're going to have an easy one this time. You've had a dangerous life. We're going to give you a safe life, right? You experience both sides of the coin. So as far as I understand, that seems valid. It doesn't seem valid that certain souls only have bad lives and certain souls only have good lives. It seems like we all should have some type of balance as far as opportunity goes. And we may even want the challenge. At some point, we may even say, I'll take the challenge and I'll see the positive in this, and I'll learn patience, I'll learn compassion, I'll learn this, and you're evolving your overall soul. Okay, and so why? For what reason? Like, why does this all exist? What is the point? And so it's just life, man. Like, why are we all here? Why are we in a computer? Or is this a virtual reality, right? Like, maybe. It could be. It could be. So, in a way, not exactly, but metaphorically and figuratively and in relation to, and comparatively, could be. Okay? Could be like a computer, like the movie Free Guy. It really could. It makes sense. It actually has some value in validity to the argument that that's a possibility. Now, heaven, which I've talked about before, heaven on earth, which is a biblical thing, that there's a lot more to it that I would have to dive into. And I'm about to mow the lawn, so I'm going to mow the lawn after this. And heaven in of itself as a concept. And then there's other religions that have other beliefs, like nirvana, right? Or reincarnation in of itself is a religious belief. And I believe Buddhism. And then there's all kinds of information about Jesus as well that are not told to Christians in the typical church system or in the Bible. Okay? The Bible in of itself is a document. Now, you've got to consider people's experience with the Bible, people's firsthand experience encountering the Bible, the words in the Bible itself. I would not consider myself a biblical expert. I do believe the Bible is one of the texts. I don't believe it's the only one. I don't necessarily believe it's the Holy Grail either of all of the books, although if you had to pick one as the Holy Grail, it's probably a good pick. You know, if you had to pick one, that's probably a good pick. But there's other religions that you would pick another book. The Quran, for example, if you were Muslim, you would pick that book. And there are other books as well. So one book from one religion, from one language, I wouldn't consider as the Holy Grail because it's incomplete. And of itself, it's only for one belief system. So I like to look at all the different beliefs. Some would say that's pagan. Some would say that's spiritualist. Some would say that's New Age. I would say I come from a primarily Christian background, although I don't believe what Christians believe necessarily all the way. I do believe in the Holy Spirit. I do believe in listening to the voice of God. I do believe in the healing benefits of the Holy Spirit. I do believe in the power of associating yourself with people that believe in a higher power. I do believe that there are positive benefits from being a member of a religion and going to a church and reading a certain text such as the Bible. Although I know that it's a lot deeper than that. And it goes a lot deeper than what the average person knows. And that's the stuff that I'm interested in, is the stuff that's deeper. Because I love the way it makes me feel, because it makes me feel like the real me. Without the layer, if I unwrap the present, the gift that's inside in my heart and my soul, it feels like me, the Holy Spirit. I once had a friend who I would consider a mentor that said to me to follow the chills. So the Holy Spirit around you, you will feel chills. The way someone sings the worship music at church, you're going to feel chills. Maybe it's listening to a certain video on YouTube or reading a certain book, you feel the chills. It makes you feel like you. So I'm going to wrap this video up. We got about 5 more minutes. I'm going to wrap this video up. And following the chills. I believe if you put the Bible by itself, to me, it's not enough. It's incomplete. It needs edited. It needs modified, and there needs to be additions to it. And I would start my own church, and it would be my YouTube channel, and it would be information that specifically the ancient origins of the history, and then also the future, because we can recover memories of the future. I would put them together, and I would allow people to know them and remember them. And so I do believe I had a life where I was a spy, where I was a detective or a spy or something along those lines. And my job was to uncover information. I do believe I did have a life that I would play that role, for sure, 1000%. And so there are people that are in contact with beings that are not human. This is almost 100% true. It was almost 100% guaranteed, especially in the higher ups, in the government, in the world today, in different countries, especially in the United States. Because I know more about the United States than other countries, but especially the United States. There's been examples and stories, specifically of texts, of people from Atlantean times that talked about mass reincarnating into the United States and creating the United States. This was an advanced civilization, Atlantis, and they talked about this. Then, in the founding fathers of the United States, and around that time, there was information that was discovered, files, that there was extraterrestrial contact inside the room. There's secret passageways in the White House, and I would almost bet you that one of them is a place where extraterrestrials teleport into. Whether it's already happened in the past or it's something that it will happen in the future, because maybe it hasn't happened yet in linear terms, but maybe it's something we all know will happen eventually in the future. Maybe it'll be 300 years from now where it first happens. But remember, for them, if they're already on that level, they can already do it. Does that make sense? Like, there's a version of them that already is doing it. Yeah, so once I move into my apartment, I'm going to set up a studio where I can put my research together and talk about it in a certain way. That's what I would like to do. As of today, I haven't made money off of this, so that's why I'm getting back into trading. I've gotten back into trading, thinking I can make money with that. Even just a normal job is going to be fine. If I can get a job, in the era of in terms of the category of historical research and stuff like that, history, like the real history, what actually happened. And maybe I'll become like a history teacher or something like that. I do believe history is important, and I believe there's more to it than that. There's a lot more to it than that. And I believe it's extremely likely that there's extraterrestrial influence in the United States government. And if there's extraterrestrial influence in the United States government, there's likely in all governments, or all major governments. Although I do believe the United States has it's probably deeper than I think. It's deeper than that. It's even deeper than that, and there's people that talk about it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to cut this off here. It's about 30 minutes in. At some point, I'll make a book about this at some point, but yeah, I'm going to go to some conferences. I'm going to see if I can talk to one of my friends. There's a couple of my friends that I talk to about this type of stuff, and we're going to have to talk to them again. It's been a while, and I'm definitely going to get into this. I do believe by the time I'm 60 years old, which is 30 years from now, I will do this completely. I will have made all my money by then, and I will be doing this research and hopefully working on advancements in technology, and hopefully even meeting with extraterrestrials as well, or doing the closest thing to that in telepathic communication. So yeah, guys, there's that.